Hi everybody, Jill Simonian from PragerU Kids here. Today's video is a bit different than our usual parent alerts. If you tune in the few times a month that I go online on Facebook and YouTube, you know that we bring you up to date about what's happening in schools for teachers and parents. But you will see that our CEO, Marissa Streit, today is with me. Thank you for being here. This conversation is, we always have very fun conversations about PragerU Kids and what we're doing in schools now. But this conversation is not fun at all. And I really appreciate you being here because, of course, we're talking about Israel and the barbaric terrorist attacks. And yes, you are our CEO, but I wanted to talk to you today as a mom and, of course, a former educator, because you have such a unique insight that I think would be really helpful and meaningful to so many of our parents and teachers. So how are you doing?
Okay, so thanks for having me. These are really dark times. You're right. Usually when we have these conversations, I'm kind of like this motivator. We always have to, whether we're pessimistic or optimistic, my whole vibe is always we keep fighting. We keep, we must be strong. And I still believe in that. But it's hard not to notice that there is some darkness that is falling on the West right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just Israel. I think that people who are living here in the United States are very much experiencing this darkness. It's in our schools. It's all over social media. It's all over our culture. And it is impacting our children here in the United States of America. And so, I am walking around with a heavy heart. I'm still the warrior that I believe God has placed both of us in this situation. But there's quite a bit of darkness.
And I agree with you. I've felt this cloud. I mean, it's no secret for people who watch and listen. I do not happen to be Jewish. I'm Armenian American. I'm Christian. But this has been affecting me very emotionally, and I can't even imagine how it's been affecting you. We don't like to play the victim bingo here. I mean, we always, we never play victim bingo, but are you scared right now?
So I'm not about playing victim bingo, but we also can't bury our head in the sand and pretend that the evil that we're witnessing is not around, right? And so first of all, I said this in confidence to you a few days ago, and I'll share it now for the first time publicly. This is the first time at least for me, living in the United States of America, that I'm afraid to be Jewish. I had to drop off my kids at their Jewish school last week, and we had to just ramp up on guards. I mean, it's scary. We're driving into schools, and you see multiple guards with giant machine guns. What kind of message does that send to these young Jewish kids when they have to see that? But I would say that it's not just Jews who are feeling this anxiety. I think everybody is experiencing this anxiety because the attack is not just against Jews. Really, the attack is against Western civilization and everything that America stands for. The Jews happen to be yet again on the front lines. This is so biblical. I keep thinking to myself, oh my God, we're reliving the Bible, right?
That's exactly what I think too. That's the only way I can contextualize this whole thing.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the reasons why the Jews are not the only ones who are anxious about this. You're actually seeing Marxist education play out right now. Like all of the brainwashing and the division that has been brewing and created in our education system is now actually coming to a point of, explosion.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to get to, we've talked about the thousands of people who are in the streets rallying against goodness. I'm going to put it that way. I mean, they're rallying for terrorist acts. And I want to get to that in a moment. But before we do, how much and how little do you share with your kids? Because your kids are very small. Are they all of them are under the age of what, 11?
10, 8, and 5.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're very young. I've always believed, and my mom did the same thing, that the parents need to be the first to share difficult things, because if they hear about it from anybody else, it breaks the trust It breaks that important openness and line of communication that we have with our children. I think the way we converse about things matter, the type of language we choose, and also the ability to make kids understand parents are there to protect them. But to hide everything for them, in my opinion, doesn't work, because kids are very, very smart, especially these days. And if they have any access to media whatsoever, or even if you even if you take them to the mall, right? Or if they're accessing other kids who have access to media or have older siblings, they will start hearing these things. And so we're actually confronted with the choice of allowing others to explain the difficult things that are happening in the world to them, or are we going to take it upon ourselves to explain it to them, open that line of communication, while making them feel that the parents are there to keep them safe.
Right, right. And I also agree. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that too. You have to bring up these hard topics, because if you don't, someone else will, and you don't know what they're going to say. And so bringing these things up are, paramount importance. I also think it's important, though, especially for the younger one. Like, I had very different conversations with my 11-year-old versus my 13-year-old. The 13-year-old is still young, admittedly, but I wanted to inform her about the horrific atrocities that happened while also not scaring her too much. And I'm curious if I have not shown any videos or, obviously nothing like that, but I'm curious how many, and she asked questions, how many questions have your kids asked you about this that they perhaps heard from something else or somewhere else?
Yeah, so my kids have noticed the additional armed guards at their schools, and they have noticed that people are walking around with a long face. They have also noticed that some kids who have made it actually from Israel, who are evacuated from Israel, are now joining their schools here because, they kind of have nowhere to go right now. So my kids are very aware because they go to a Jewish school. I would say that kids who don't go to a Jewish school may not be as aware, but I am pretty sure that they are aware. I mean, especially if they're in high school, we're hearing about on high school campuses all kinds of walkouts, pro-Palestine, initiatives that are happening over there, including protests and sometimes even riots on campuses. So I think that young Americans who are not in Jewish schools are still very much aware and probably have a lot of questions. I think one of the things to understand, even in the development of a child, so I have a 5-year-old. 5-year-olds, they see life in black and white, good and evil. It's a little hard for them to understand nuance. War has a lot of nuance in it, right? So, of course, we are sad when all children are attacked, right? They can't really develop the nuance to really understand, well, why are certain people getting attacked? What is the story behind it? So when speaking to a child that is maybe under the age of 8, it's hard to really develop the different nuances and understanding what war is like and what this good versus evil really looks like. And so a conversation with an early development child is more in the line of, there are bad things that are happening. The world has evil and the world has good. God wants us to be good. God wants us to treat everybody equally. Your parents love you, and we're here to protect you. We live in the greatest country on God's green earth. America is a wonderful place, and we should keep protecting it, and we should honor those who protect it, right? That is kind of how I'll speak to my 5-year-old. Where your 13-year-old is actually, that is a developmental stage where they enjoy nuance. They want to feel like they're an adult. They want to start understanding kind of like the different pieces of information that the grown-ups get to hear, and they strive for that. It excites them. And so I think in when you're speaking to a 13-year-old, you can lean into it a little bit more and just say, well, let's talk about the history. Let's talk about why the Palestinians are upset. Let's talk about why the Israelis are afraid. Let's talk about why there are some Jews here who are on alert. Look, you can actually lean into that with a 13-year-old. You don't have to scare her and say you need to be afraid, but I actually think it's a great time to have those kinds of conversations, specifically the conversations that help develop the the understanding of how humans are, right?
Yeah.
There is evil in humanity. There's huge evil in humanity. And how do we combat that? I think one of the problems that we're seeing on college campuses right now is this concept of moral relativism, or this concept that violence is sometimes justified.
Yes. And that's one of the most terrifying byproducts of this whole thing, I think. And I want to share something with you that just reaffirmed, we've been talking for years about how our education system has been overtaken by Marxism, and how just like you said, people's moral compass is relative, and children have been brainwashed not to understand that there is one truth, one good that we should follow. They have been brainwashed to think that, oh, everyone has their truth, their truth, their truth, their truth. And if one thing has been revealed to me through this is how severely some of these kids that we now see protesting, how severely they have been brainwashed to not understand that there is one truth. As horrible as all of this is, I am trying to really, as a mom, I'm really trying to see, okay, where is I hate to say silver lining. I hate to say that, but I think you understand what I mean when I say that. I want to say the one good, true thing is that perhaps everyone's eyes that were not open before now recognize how severely our children have been brainwashed. In my social media feed, I've personally seen a lot of people I used to work with who admittedly aligned with leftism and Marxist-leaning ideas, who are now not understanding why people are not condemning Hamas. They're not understanding why people are silent about the atrocities on the Israeli people. Do you see that as well?
So when you use the term silver lining, it makes me think a little bit about this thing that you've probably heard me say many times, and that is most people don't fight until it's too late.
Yes.
And most people rely on others to do the fighting for them, right? It's not until it really hits home that people suddenly wake up and say, oh my God, what is happening here? But you and I could have had this exact conversation about moral relativism and social justice rather than real justice, or even excusing violence because, right, somebody is oppressed and so violence is okay. We could have had this conversation 2 years ago during the BLM riots, and it's the same Marxism, right? Only it really is it has given birth to another agenda, but it's the exact same agenda, and that agenda is a Marxist agenda that, those who are successful are the bad guys no matter what, right? There is this moral relativism where it's okay to burn down people's businesses. It's okay to loot. It's okay to riot. It's okay to destroy Target because there is a group that is oppressed. Violence is okay. Immorality is okay when you feel that you are oppressed. And here we are. We take that same exact concept, right? That same Marxist concept, and you apply that in Hamas, right? Hamas is okay. Hamas is justified because it's a resistance group, right? So it doesn't matter if they rape and if they behead babies and if they destroy towns, if they directly attack families, children, Holocaust survivors, that is all okay. Why is that okay? Because they feel like they're inferior. They feel like they're oppressed. And in many cases, they are inferior. And like living in Gaza is a terrible situation. I mean, but the reason they're in this terrible situation is because Hamas terrorizes them and uses them as human shields. But all of the details don't matter, just like it didn't matter that America is not institutionally racist, that America has made all of this progress, that if you actually, succeed on your own merit, it is a good thing, right? And so that whole equity versus equality, it's all within the same realm of Marxism. And we have told America, we have told our kids that it's okay. It's okay to behave immorally. It is okay to behave violently if you feel that you are oppressed and you're upset. And so they take the same exact mold and then they apply it on this Israeli-Palestinian or really Israeli-Hamas conflict. And people are wondering, oh my God, how could this happen? I'll tell you a quick story. I interviewed a Columbia professor last week. And I said to him, Professor, I know you're very emotional. You're very upset about this. Can I ask you a question? Are you surprised? Are you surprised that this is happening? Because they have been teaching this Marxist, anti-West, anti-colonial propaganda on campuses for years.
Right.
Right? That's what PragerU has been fighting against. And you right now are in shock. I'm upset. I'm sad. I'm heartbroken, but I am not shocked.
And I agree with you. I am not shocked either. You see all of the, I didn't think it would manifest like this so quickly, admittedly, but you see all of this and we are not surprised as, you know, people who, like you say, are fighting from the belly of the beast here in Los Angeles. And, you know, the only thing that I go back to whenever I think, what can I do? The only thing I go back to is the Jordan Peterson phrase when he says, take care of your own house first and take care of teaching your children truth and history. And that's the one small little thing. It's a small thing, but I think it's also a big thing that I think every single parent can start with when we feel so helpless when things like this happen, no matter what background you are. Mm-hmm. I want you to put your educator hat on now. You were you're still an educator, but you used to run a school and you used to be in the classroom. A lot of schools and districts now are sending email notifications out to parents whenever a geopolitical issue like this happens. A lot of times we disagree with it, saying, why are they trying to make activists out of children? In this case, should school districts be sending notifications about this?
In my opinion, no.
Oh, that surprises me.
In my opinion, no. I don't think it's the job of the teacher or the school district to, you know, really meddle in that issue. The problem is that they've already taken the stance that supports the terrorist group and the Marxist group. And so what do we do, right? If we believe that schools should be reading, writing, and arithmetic, and it should stay at that, our side keeps advocating for that. And so we remain silent about our values. And so we say, well, we believe it should be just reading, writing, and arithmetic. And so therefore, let's keep our ideology out of it. Our ideology, which is what has made America what it is today. And so we don't show up. But the problem is that the other side doesn't believe in just reading, writing, and arithmetic. And so they actually push away the reading, writing, and arithmetic and fill it up with their values and their ideology. And you see that on the transgender side, and you also see that on the, you know, defund the police stuff, etc. I mean, if you actually pick up the NEA's agenda, the National Educators Association, the Teachers Union agenda from 2022, you can read that every single one of their issues of business that they're speaking about has nothing to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic, right, or literacy scores or math scores. It's really all about politics. Do you know what NB1 was? The number one issue that the National Educators Association decided to take on?
I should know this, but I don't.
The number one issue was the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in support of Palestine. Number one issue.
And what year was this?
This is 2022. The largest teachers union in America took on that issue. So then we ask ourselves, well, do we not show up at all? Do we not show up at all when they gobble up every hour of our kids' time in school and spend it on their agenda, right? On their ideological brainwashing? That's the issue that we're in right now. So if it was a perfect world and we lived in an ivory tower, I would say, okay, you know, let's just reading, writing, arithmetic. You want to get your values, you go to church and you talk to your parents. That's where you get your values.
Yeah.
But we are in a situation where they have turned our kids into political tools. They have they have so infiltrated into our schools that it's as if the terrorists actually have cells in our very own schools, right? And so when we're seeing these kids march and riot and behave violently, it's not because of any other reason than the fact that the schools have manufactured this.
Yeah.
And so then what do we do? So to your answer, would it make me feel better if the school sent an email saying we condemn Hamas? Maybe. Would it solve our bigger problem here in America of what is happening in our education system? No, because we know that this leftist Marxist ideology is so embedded in our education system that an email is not enough.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I do agree with that. I want you, if you don't know Marissa already, anyone who's watching, in the comments, tell us where you're from. I forgot to ask that in the beginning. Tell us where you're from. But if you don't know Marissa already, you should know that she always offers some kind of hope. Okay, I got to turn this around because it is very dark days, and I'm not laughing to make light of any of this because this is all very serious. But like you say, we must continue to fight. Marissa is very good at offering hope. No pressure. But I want you to offer some kind of hope for parents and teachers who might be struggling right now with everything that's happening regarding what to tell kids, what to not tell kids. What is the hope that we can offer children?
So I'm not sure if I can offer hope directly, but I can give you some pragmatic advice on what I think we should do right now as parents.
Well, I'll take it. Pragmatic is always
pragmatic advice. So hard times make resilient people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the things that we've been lacking in America is bravery and resilience. And so these are amazing times to sit with your children and build resilient families, right? The social media has tried to tear our families apart. The Marxist agenda in our schools has tried to tear our families apart. But when we go through these very difficult times, we actually can come together. You can actually build familial resilience out of this by spending more time with your children, by having some of these really hard conversations with your children. Your children will feel closer to you because they will feel like you trust them and their ability to comprehend. Obviously, it has to be at the right level, but there's a real opportunity in bringing the family together and becoming closer. And so I think that those are one of the kind of like golden nuggets that we can find through these very dark times. The other thing is, it is a great opportunity to finally get off social media. I know many of you listening have been saying to yourselves, you know what, I should really spend less time on social media and I should get my child off of social media. But one day goes by and another day goes by and
it's hard.
And it's hard. And for some reason, you couldn't get yourself to do so, right? But this time where social media is such an ugly place, it's such a cesspool, you can actually use that as that excuse to actually just say to yourself, you know what, I am going to put that phone away. I am going to lean in more and spend more time with my family or outdoors or take my whole family outdoors and just put that phone away. You don't have to be a social media warrior all day long. I call it the brain blender. I see what it does to some of our staff members here at PragerU who have taken on the fight on social. It is exhausting and it just erodes your soul in some ways, right?
It does.
And so use these dark times as an opportunity to bring in light into your family and put the social media and the screens away to just, tighten up those relationships and have those conversations with your family members and with your children, letting them know that the world can be an ugly place, right? I don't think that we need to pretend that the world is all perfect. The Bible doesn't pretend that the world is all perfect. Yep. You pick up the Bible and you can read these stories about how every generation has faced ugliness and every generation has survived the ugliness because we had hope, we had values, we understood what morality is, right? Have conversations about morality with your children. They will grow so much out of that experience. And in those ways, we will raise more great kids who will have that resilience and will have the appetite to fight against evil. And that is the greatest lesson we can teach our kids. I love math. I love academics. I love literacy. But you know what I love the most? I love resilience and tenacity because those are really... that is the secret sauce for success in life.
Of course.
These hard times, do contribute to that secret sauce.
And there is a reason why they call the greatest generation of Americans the ones who lived and fought and were resilient through those terrible world wars. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. She's not sitting around all day doing nothing, everyone, okay? She's super busy, and I really appreciate you coming here with us for, 20 minutes just to shed light as a mom and an educator and as the fearless leader who we call CEO here at PragerU, lighting the fire and keeping us going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
God bless everyone. Stay strong and stay resilient. And thank you for all of your support always.